Senator, I appreciate you making time for us on this busy Friday.
Hey, Steve, it's good to be back on with you.
Yes, I appreciate that. So much to talk about, Senator, and I know we're pressed for time today, so I want to get right into it. The first thing I'd like to go to is you're the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and as both of us probably held security clearances in the Army, we know the consequences, unlike Mrs. Clinton, of violating that. So I will, of course, only ask you to say the open source stuff. But this nonsense from the Washington Post and actually the New York Times debunked it, defending Secretary of Hegseth of ordering this strike. Now, I know you had a hearing on that yesterday with Admiral Bradley and General Kane, so I'd like to get into that about these narco-terrorists.
Sure thing, Steve. Yeah, the Washington Post a week ago published a story which sounded wrong to me at the moment, that Pete Hegseth had given orders to give no quarter, which means to kill any survivors of a military operation or to kill them all or some such nonsense. And that Admiral Mitch Brady, a lifetime Navy SEAL who was then the commander of the Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, carried out that order. Again, like I said, I thought it sounded improbable at the moment, but I wanted to wait to gather the facts, and we've done that now. And I could just say the Washington Post printed outright lies, and they owe an apology to Secretary Hegseth and especially to Admiral Brady. Again, a highly decorated career Navy SEAL.
Yes.
I was in a briefing with him and General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, yesterday. I saw the relevant parts of the video. When the first and the second strike occurred, there were 11 drug traffickers on that boat. 9 were killed in the first strike. 2 survived. No evidence that they were incapacitated or hanging on for dear life. They weren't like floating along on a single plank of wood trying to stay above water, Steve. They were sitting on top of the boat that had been turned over and was filled up with tens of millions of dollars worth of drugs that were destined for our shores. They were even trying to flip the boat back over or maybe get into compartments with communications equipment, maybe signaling to other of their drug trafficking pals. And Admiral Brady made the absolutely right decision to strike the boat again because it had not yet been destroyed and its cargo had not yet been sent to the bottom of the ocean. That is exactly what he should have done, in my opinion, exactly what I would have done if I'd been in his position. And I'm just glad that we have a president that takes the threat of narco-terrorism and cartels, drug trafficking, as serious as Donald Trump does.
And I am too. I mean, they keep talking about, I've heard other media sources say, that we lose the tantamount to 58,000. And I know your dad is one of our Vietnam heroes. They equate the Vietnam War and say we lose 58,000 Americans a year. And I would beg to differ, Senator. I think that number is grossly underreported. And then by the time you add in all the drug and gang killings and all the ancillary crime that occurs because addicts don't have enough money to buy their next fix, so they're breaking in and stealing things from people's cars and houses, that number is far more astronomical than 58,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad reality, Steve, that America has lost many more of our sons and daughters over the last, say, 25 years to drug cartels in Latin America than we've lost to Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
Yes, and it's a clear...
I say, of course, we should take the threat of Al-Qaeda and ISIS serious and try to kill them wherever we can find them. But we should also take the threat of these drug cartels just as seriously. As I sometimes put it, Steve, imagine if I told you that ISIS had set up shop in Mexico or more broadly in Latin America, and they were conducting operations that would kill tens of thousands of Americans and hundreds of Arkansans every year. What would you expect our government to do to those ISIS terrorists? Whatever that is, it's exactly what we should do to these drug traffickers.
Well, Senator, I know this was an open source thing, and I will let you decide how much you want to comment on it, but I referenced the former three-star Venezuelan general and director of their military intelligence, Hugo Caravel Barrios, who has absolutely indicated that Russia, China are involved with the Maduro regime, as well as Al-Qaeda and some other threats from Iran. And they were all infiltrating across our border when Biden, Garland, and those reprobates had the border wide open.
Yeah, Steve, there's no question that the illegitimate Maduro regime, since neither the first Trump administration nor the Biden administration nor this Trump administration recognizes Maduro as the legitimate government of Venezuela, is deeply, deeply in bed with Russia, with China, with Iran, with North Korea, and for that matter, these cartels. You know, it is a sad reality, Steve, that some governments in Latin America have weak institutions that don't even have total control of their territory, and drug cartels can operate with impunity and in some ways threaten their own governments. That's not the case in Venezuela. The Venezuelan regime actively colludes with these drug cartels,
yes,
and skims money off of their trafficking and helps them transship drugs from Colombia and other South American countries. That's very different from a Latin American country that simply has weak institutions and doesn't have strong police force that can control all of its territory, and drug cartels end up operating there. It's not happening in spite of Venezuela's regime. It's happening because of it.
Yes. And Senator, I'll share this with you. I don't know if you've ever been briefed on this, not the personal part I'm going to tell you, but I have very dear friends in Lima, Peru. And my friend Selena is a doctor with her practice, and her husband works for the Peruvian government, the federal government. And when they had their own first and only child is my goddaughter. And then when I became Lara's godfather, one of Selena's cousins asked me to become her godfather too. So I have two goddaughters in Lima, and I go down to see my friends maybe once every other year. And we talk, though, probably every few days. And she's told me that the Venezuelans have infiltrated Peru, and they're causing chaos down there and bringing drugs in. And she said, I wish the United States would do something about Venezuela and getting a legitimate government back there.
Yep, and remember, Steve, too, as was the case during the Cold War, you have Cuban intelligence and Cuban security services deeply infiltrated into the Venezuelan regime as well.
Yeah, and into the Los Angeles mayor's office, too, if you believe everything about her, which her ties to Cuba are pretty intense. So, Senator, I'm just going to flat out ask you, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer. This is rhetorical. You agree with President Trump 100% that this is a correct policy and support it?
Yeah, no question, Steve. And I'm pleased that they had a strike on another drug boat as recently as yesterday while the Admiral was up briefing on this first strike on September 2nd. Look, as I said to someone earlier today, maybe a CNN post, if those boats had explosives, they had bombs, and they were destined for our shores, I don't think even liberal Democrats would object to blowing them up. Maybe they would, I don't know. But no normal American would.
No.
Those drugs will detonate in communities across Arkansas just as surely as any bomb would, and ultimately will kill more people because of the nature of the threat posed by drug trafficking. So until the drug cartels realize that the United States now means business, we should absolutely continue to target these boats.
Yeah, and Senator, that's absolutely correct. And all one has to do is look at San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, where this crime is running rampant because of these drugs and these liberal Soros prosecutors. That's Alex and George Soros are probably a topic for another day when we have more time. But I'm glad, that we agree these were righteous strikes. These were narco terrorists that are clear and present danger to the U.S. U.S. government and the and American citizens. And unfortunately, Jim Hines has been all over the news saying he was appalled and calling them sailors, like implying they were part of a navy of another country and that our guys would just arbitrarily kill them. There wasn't any surrender that I saw out of them, nor were they fishermen.
And Steve, I just respectfully disagree with that view. Like I said, I saw all the relevant video. These two drug traffickers were not at all incapacitated or distressed. I mean, one guy took off his T-shirt like he was out there to get a suntan while they were trying to flip the boat back over. They knew exactly what they had been doing and what they were trying to do. Now, I will contrast that, Steve, with another thing that the Admiral briefed us on, and he said, feel free to share this with others. There was a strike later this fall that also had survivors. And under the circumstances of that strike, our military adjudged that those survivors were, in fact, distressed. They were, in fact, shipwrecked under the law of armed conflict, and they were therefore no longer combatants. And what did our military do after that strike with those survivors? As it should have, under those circumstances, in fact, it sent out a U.S. vessel, it picked them up out of the water, and it returned them to their home country. Just going to show that our military always is careful and thorough, discriminates based on the facts and the circumstances of each particular operation, and then acts accordingly to the law of armed conflict and our national security interests.
Absolutely. And, after 25 years in the Army and Army Reserve combined, I'm right there with you. And I was like you. I was a grunt, and I had a signal intel background too. But I decided you make rank quicker with an 11 Bravo. Anything else you want to mention on this narco terrorist, Senator, before we go on to the next subject?
No, I do really want to stress that it's unfortunate that the Admiral and Secretary Hegseth were kind of left twisting in the wind for a few days and having, these vile allegations made about them based on a fake story from the Washington Post. Really nothing could be further from the truth. Admiral Brady is a great American. He's a hero, and Arkansans should know that they should have nothing but respect and gratitude for his actions that day and every day he's worn the uniform.
Yes, and I saw the seal trident on his uniform and knew that right away. Unfortunately, a lot of other people wouldn't have recognized that. Now, the next thing I want to cover is the tragedy that occurred in D.C. with this guy, premeditated murder, drives across the country and kills one of our National Guard soldiers and severely wounds a National Guard airman. And it's because of the Biden administration. I know we could talk about this for an hour, too, about how debauched that war withdrawal was and Brady Gate. But real quick, I know you guys have reached out to Senator Rubio, or I should say Secretary Rubio, in his role as National Security Advisor. What are we going to do to get rid of these Afghans that should have never been admitted to our country?
Well, first off, Steve, just let me join you in expressing my condolences and sympathy for the family of Sarah Beckstrom and continued prayers for Andrew Wolf's continued recovery. I hear from the senators from West Virginia that he is doing a little bit better. This depraved terrorist should have never been admitted into our country. The vast majority of those Afghans should have never been admitted to our country, and that's what we've asked Secretary Rubio to do, is go back and actually try to assess the people that Joe Biden admitted after the disastrous withdrawal and humiliating defeat in Afghanistan. It's true that he worked. It's true that he did work on occasion.
Senator, unfortunately, we only have 20 seconds left, but real quick to tell you, several have texted in to say, tell Tom we support him 100%. And then another said real quick, Steve, can you ask Senator Cotton about getting a federal voter ID law passed? And we don't have time for that, but I appreciate you being on.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Another time.
All right. God bless, Senator. Thank you.